I was sitting up late one night listening to records, and Gene Clark, I had Gene Clark's album on. Gene Clark was a member of the Byrds, and Jesse Ed Davis had produced this album I was listening to and played on it. And I sat up and thought, why don't we know more about Jesse Ed Davis? I was a bit of a sort of, amateur music scholar, if you will, for most of my life. And I'd seen his name in my record collection for years. And I realized there's not much. Then I started to wonder why. Now I'm really curious. Why haven't I ever read any deeper biographical treatment of this subject? Before long, I thought that it would make for a great history project because Jesse Ed Davis is really compelling as a Native American person, historically, which dovetails with my research expertise and what I teach at OSU. He's important as a musician and as a Native American subject. As a musician, just in terms of the sort of metrics that we might use, he played on a dozen top 10 singles, a dozen top 10 albums, dozens more top 20 and top 40 singles and albums. He played with the greatest musicians of his generation. And he was more than a rock and roller. He appeared on jazz records, he appeared on country albums, he's on a Cher album and a David Cassidy album and pop records, and he played in every direction we could imagine. And in that respect, he reflects Oklahoma as a place in terms of where his music came from, not just as an Indigenous person, but as an Oklahoman.
And so we were walking through the museum and I said, we need to do one on Jesse Ed Davis. And Steve Jenkins didn't quite recall, the name seemed familiar to him, but I stood there right in where the exhibit is going, opens tonight, and I Googled Jesse Ed Davis. And what came up was an image of Jesse Ed Davis with Bob Dylan. So that was one of the first synchronicities, about him. And he thought, so we talked about it, he went and looked up, and then we started a process that took almost 2 years, really.
There's never really been a space or place like there is at the Bob Dylan Center with the exhibit, at the concert that we'll conduct in February with the book and the conversations around it, for Jesse Ed Davis fans to be Jesse Ed Davis fans together. Where would they go in the past and wear a t-shirt and share memories and reflections on what he meant? We're creating that through these efforts, a place for fans to be together and old friends to come together and find each other again by virtue of learning a little bit more about Jesse Ed Davis.